Welcome to the Career Ready podcast. Learn about resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn, interviewing, and all things you need to be career ready with the Career Service Center at College of DuPage. I'm one of your hosts, Pierre Michaels. For our student listeners, welcome to the new school year. For our non-student listeners, as always, we're happy to have you with us. Later in today's episode, Rebecca will be joining me as we reflect on our first 50 episodes and share some highlights of the podcast. But first, we have a new voice joining the podcast, and I'm delighted to interview her so we can learn a little more about Marisela Morales. Mari, I'm excited to have you join the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Mari, you joined the Career Service Center team a handful of months ago, and I've enjoyed getting to know you, and I want our audience to get to know you a little bit as well. So can you provide a quick introduction, or as we like to say, an elevator pitch?
So I started my career as a writing teacher where I helped students find their voices and express themselves more effectively. And this foundation led me to transition into adult education, where I focused on empowering individuals through education and personal growth. And so now my latest transition is in career readiness, where I dedicate my career to helping individuals explore their passions and navigate their educational and professional paths. My objective is to blend self-expression with practical skills to guide others towards fulfilling their occupational goals.
That you're doing and helping people reach those goals. But I think that's a great introduction just to who you are and what you're doing. So again, I'm glad to have you here. So can we just expand a little bit more on your story, and can you walk us through your career path and just what you've been doing and how you got to this point?
Yeah, so I think, as with so many others, I would describe my professional trajectory as both unexpected and non-linear. I always knew that I wanted to help others. And I thought that I would go about doing that by working for a nonprofit organization. But growing up in a family of educators, I wasn't really sure how to go about carving my own path. So instead, I began my career in education. But as I explored education and really other various roles, I found that they just didn't quite fit. And so I really experienced several transitions. And eventually, I actually kind of fortuitously fell into adult education. And funnily enough, I actually found that it perfectly blended both my passion for social services and education. And this then led into me fulfilling a role of into career readiness. Today, I'm grateful to be working in both areas. I work both um, with in a job with career readiness as well as in adult education, and so I am able to continue blending my interests and making a meaningful impact.
Yeah, that one of those first things you said there, as far as that desire to help people, I see that in my normal interaction with you, but just kind of hearing that story, like there's always that common thread of giving back and helping people. And then you've just kind of figured out different ways to do that as you've evolved professionally. So I think that's, a good thing to keep note of is, we kind of have this thing that we're working towards. And then as we move forward professionally, we get to do it in different ways.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that it's really important balance um, to balance your career with your interests and your passions, because the way that it's that whole adage of um, you know finding a job that you truly enjoy, that and I'm paraphrasing here, but finding a job, finding a career where you truly enjoy means that you never have to work a day in your life. And I tell individuals that, and essentially tell them that I never work because I genuinely enjoy all of the work that I do. I genuinely enjoy the jobs that I have. I don't feel like it's work. I feel like it's fun. And and to others, it might seem lame. People might not understand, why does this girl enjoy resume writing? Why does she love adult education? Why does she love watching TikToks on interviewing skills? It's not something that everybody relates to, but that's okay. It's not about something that everybody needs to relate to. It's what makes me happy, what helps me feel fulfilled. And at the end of the day, what will also help others. And I feel like I'm able to successfully check each of those boxes off and make a living off of it. And that makes me one of the luckiest individuals. I may not be financially rich, but my goodness, I am so incredibly rich in many other ways that makes me incredibly fortunate. And that is one of the things that motivates me to do a better job for the individuals that I serve is I want them to feel that fulfillment, that happiness every day of their lives.
I think that's why I like working with you so much because internally I have a lot of that as well. And I see that come out in how you do your work. Hopefully you see that in me as
I
we work
do.
together. Um,
Yeah.
again, it's just great when we can find it internally, right?
Mhm.
And some people like what we're talking about, they're just not interested in it beyond the TikTok videos on interviewing. But like just personally, we have to find what we're interested in, and then
Mhm.
we could find different ways to do that as we move forward.
I agree. Absolutely.
So now that you're at this stage, can you talk or tell us about mentors in your life and how they've helped you decide on this career path?
Yeah, it's funny because I don't know if anybody has really helped me with this specific career path per se, but rather I have had individuals who have helped mold me into the professional that I am and also help give me the encouragement and support to know that it's okay to explore different career pathways and know that career pathways can be fulfilling. My mom was so influential she was an educator herself and really modeled the importance of empowering others through education and service. She didn't just talk the talk, she walked the walk. And so she demonstrated how learning can be powerful in making a difference. But beyond my mom, I also had some really wonderful supervisors and colleagues who played a role in helping me see that working in career pathways that were fulfilling could exist and that it was okay to make mistakes, that it was safe to ask for feedback and to grow as a professional. It allowed me to be open to different pathways and to really tap into the potential that I had. I think that so many times we encounter, and this is really unfortunate, but we have encountered, at least speaking for myself, but please tell me, Pierre, if you've encountered this yourself, we have encountered individuals who are looking for new jobs because of the individuals that they work for, the individuals that they work with, because it's such a toxic environment. And they feel like they are stifled. They feel that they are not appreciated, whatever the case might be. And I think that is so unfortunate. And so instead, I can look and see how wonderful my supervisors, such as, Michelle Polyakov, my one of my first supervisors, Diana. She was my very first supervisor in adult education. She created this very loving and warm environment for professionals and students alike. And I know that that environment doesn't exist for everybody. Had it been a different supervisor, would my love of adult education be as deep as it is now? I don't know.
Mhm.
It really does. Not only would my skill, my natural skills, that what naturally comes to me, would that have influenced my love of a particular career pathway? Not only would that have affected it, but also the people that I encountered. That would have also affected how I felt about a specific pathway. But that's one thing that I have actually spoken about with other individuals is I've sat with them and I have said, are you leaving this job because you feel you are not doing well? Or is it because of the environment? Is it the career or is it the environment? And, you know, so I am very lucky to have been surrounded by individuals who have helped me grow as a professional, and continue to explore and grow.
Yeah, thanks for sharing all that. We talk a lot about networking through our work, and we talk about toxic environments and being able to avoid those. But I don't know if we do enough talking about combining those two and the networking and finding people that are just cheerleaders for us as well. Because I think that the important piece, and I'm glad to hear that for the most part, your supervisors, the people you've been able to work with, have been those encouraging individuals. I just met with someone earlier today that left their last two jobs because of those toxic environments. And it's always so unfortunate to hear people going through those situations, but it's also kind of fortunate to hear, at least in her case, that she decided to leave both of them because she didn't want to be in those settings. And I think that is something that we have to get comfortable with as we move forward professionally, that if we're in bad settings, we get to leave. Nothing says we have to be there. I know sometimes we have to stay there for financial reasons or something else, but to have these positive role models in not just our personal life, but our professional life can be really valuable.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
So now that we got to learn a little bit about your story and how you got here, I just want to get some insight on your approach to helping people prepare for their professional journeys. So can you explain why you think it's valuable for students or developing job seekers to get involved early?
I think it's really important for individuals to try to get involved, whether it be through clubs, volunteering, because it allows you to get to know yourself. This could be in terms of being able to hone your skills, develop your soft skills, which so frequently is overlooked. We focus so much post secondary, we focus so much on grades, on putting things that are like, things that are learned in a class is usually what we focus on in college. But the fact is that studies have shown that hiring managers have actually said that they would actually hire somebody who is strong in soft skills and perhaps not as strong in hard skills than the other way around. Why? Because soft skills are harder to teach. They take longer and it comes from internal motivation. Those soft skills are what we can develop by being involved in volunteering, in even getting a job. And it doesn't have to be a difficult job. It could just be a part-time job that you do during the summertime. It could be clubs, but this is where you develop your leadership, compromise, conflict resolution, problem solving, communication. These are so important and come through when you are interviewing. And if you notice, they're also key transferable skills. So getting involved is very important for many reasons, not only for yourself, because you are going to understand what you like, and develop skills, but you are also going to develop skills that other people want. They're going to make it more, they're going to make you more marketable. So it's going to be beneficial to you twofold.
Yeah, great to think about it, right? As from that perspective of just personal development, but professional development all happening
Mhm.
early on.
It really is.
So moving beyond that, can you provide your top 3 tips you would like to share with a job seeker?
I would say be open to growth and transition, especially there are specific jobs right now, particularly IT. Those jobs right now are pretty difficult to obtain right now. Please don't give up. Don't take it personally. And this is more of an aside. This is more of a more kind of me trying to comfort rather than give a tip. But this is just reassurance for those who are struggling to find a job. The fact is that the market is difficult. Try not to take it personally. Having said that, be open to growth and transition. Look at what you have done and then look at other pathways that are adjacent to what you have done. So it may not be the exact role that you have been doing in the past, but it might be similar. So perhaps you were previously a teacher. Now maybe look into going into advising, go into career coaching, go into being going into academic mentorships, but look into something that is within um, the same pathway where you could still your experience and skills will still be marketable, but you could have the opportunity to look at other career opportunities. Don't be so focused on just looking for one specific job. Be open. Also, be open to growth. Don't just focus on these skills that you currently have. Be open to what skills can you develop. This is especially important for individuals who are not very great at at IT. Okay, well, you might not be very strong with computer skills, but look into maybe look at the library, look at other places where they might offer either free or low cost computer classes. This does not have to be something expensive. We understand that it may not be possible for you to go back to school, but at the very least, try to improve the skills that either you currently have or that you don't have at all. Try to develop yourself to make yourself more marketable. And then understand your strengths and your weaknesses. What I mean by that is know what it is that you are strong at. Look at all of the different, look at all of your experience and your all of the certificates, all the education that you may have, and try to look at the different jobs that you can apply for. What is it that a prospective employer is looking for? But also set yourself up for success. If you know that you are not strong in documentation, do not go for a job that is going to require you to document. Why? Because that could lead to you losing a job, that could lead to something mentally having an adverse effect on your mental health. You want to set yourself up for success. Target jobs that you are going to be successful at. Not just don't look for a job for the sake of looking for a job. Look for a job that you are going to succeed at. And then understand how to market yourself. Once you have actually found a job that you are interested in, that you qualify for, start to work on your resume, conduct your research, curate your resume with the understanding that you are targeting a specific prospective employer. That might seem like a daunting task, and it could be at the beginning. Have a strong resume to begin with, and then start to look at the job description. What is it that they are specifically looking for? And then tweak that basic resume, tweak it to where it is targeting that specific prospective employer. That is your target audience. Your resume should highlight how you are the best candidate. And the only thing that your prospective employer is going to see is what is in black and white. They will not have the benefit of being able to listen to your story beyond what is, beyond the 8 by 12 inches that is in your resume. So you have to make the best of it. How are you going to tell your professional story in the best way possible? Highlight the experience, the skills, the education that they are looking for. Look at the job description that they want, relate it back to yourself. How do you meet those needs? Make sure that those are the skills that you are highlighting in your resume. Those same skills, make sure that you are highlighting it in your interview. Make sure that you are marketing yourself in the best way possible. Another thing that I want to point out is avoid putting yourself down. So many times it could be imposter syndrome, nerves, whatever the case might be. So many times I have heard individuals say, um, I don't know this. I'm not good at this. The fact is that will just, the world can put us down. The world can knock us down at any given moment, right? When we are in a job interview, we don't knock ourselves down. We have to go in from a place of a victor. We have to go in with from the position of I am the best person for this role. And because if we put ourselves down, the prospective employer is going to see us in the same light. And it'll make us that much more difficult to build ourselves up throughout the interview. So I always tell the individuals that I work with, never put yourself down. Even if it means, that's not to say to misrepresent yourself. You can say, I may not have this skill, but I'm working on this skill. I look forward to working on this skill. Again, it's all about researching the company. It's about understanding their needs. It's about building on your skills, but you don't put yourself down. So those are my tips when it comes to job seekers.
Thanks for running through there. There's so many little nuggets within that. I'm going to encourage any listener to just go back and re-listen to that whole response there, because there's a lot that you could take away just from that. So thank you. So we're going to wrap up this getting to know you with changing the pace a little bit. And just on a personal note, what's a TV series or that you're binging now or that you would highly recommend to others, and why?
So this is a throwback. I know that they have the spinoff, but I am going to stick with the original, the Game of Thrones minus the last season. I love that show minus the last season. Okay. We can all write our own fan fiction, pitch in our own money, maybe work with the what is the MPTV folks, maybe film our own final season.
There you go. We could pitch
We
that
can.
to our MPTV
I'm
students.
sure, I'm sure HBO would love it. But yeah, so that would be my recommendation is Game of Thrones minus the last season. It's phenomenal.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for all this wonderful information. I'm glad that our audience get to know you a little bit more, and I look forward to them getting to know you more in future episodes.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to um, sharing and learning more through the podcast.
So, Rebecca, we just had a great opportunity to introduce Mari to our listeners as she's joining us for our second year of or third year of podcasting. We've already done 2 full years. Can you believe that?
I can't believe it. It's crazy. As we were doing research for this episode, it was really amazing to see all the work that we've done.
Yeah, so what we're going to do here is just kind of reflect on our first, it's actually like 52 episodes or something, but we're saying our first
Okay, we'll
50
be official.
episodes. We're just kind of reflecting. This is the research that we did. We thought back of what episodes we enjoyed, and we're just going to call out a few here. Encourage our listeners to go back and listen to these if you've missed them, or if you listen to them in the moment, go back and check them out because there's some really good content there. So, Rebecca, we're going to share three each. What was one of yours?
Yeah, so first, really quick, I want to say welcome to Mari. We're so excited to have you as another host for the show. It's going to be great to have another voice on here. So welcome. I also want to say, I know we do have a lot of newer listeners to the show. A lot of people found us more recently. And so that's another reason we thought this would be fun to kind of go back. So maybe, you just started listening and you're kind of thinking, ooh, which of these 50 episodes should I go back and listen to? And hopefully these are a few that you might like. So I'm going to start. One of my favorites was episode 13, Your Pitch Networking. So we did a whole Your Pitch series, which was to help us understand, we do that. Everyone has a little summary, right, that you're supposed to say about yourself on your resume, on LinkedIn, in an interview, that favorite tell me about yourself question. But this episode was about how do you say it to somebody when you meet them or when you're reaching out to somebody to hopefully meet with them. And it was a lot of fun to talk about how to customize your elevator pitch depending on the situation. So again, depending on if you know the person, if you don't, if you're reaching out for the first time, if you're meeting them in a social situation. And we really went through and talked about every little part, that you want to include or ideas of when you should include something or not. So it's super helpful. And I also want to link it to something that we are launching here. Well, we've had it launched, but we're we're moving forward with it with our program here at College of DuPage, which is Career Launch, where we help students find people to reach out to. And so this episode is a great one to listen to practice and get ready to introduce yourself to people.
Yeah, and I want to connect that to a tip that Mari had in the conversation I just had with her. I asked her about some of her top tips for job seekers, and she mentioned this whole idea of marketing yourself. So that
Mm.
episode is a great link to that idea and really expanding on one of those ways to be marketing yourself. So I picked early episode as well.
All right.
This was a highly listened to episode when we first started. It's still up there, but if you missed this, it's episode 4, How to Stand Out in the Application Process. And I interviewed a recruiter. And that was a great episode, just hearing it from a recruiter perspective, right? We're the Career Ready podcast. And one of the best ways to be career ready is to really understand what those recruiters and employers are looking for. So Amanda, the recruiter I interviewed with, provided a lot of great insight in there, talked a lot about those transferable based skill sets that we always emphasize through the podcast. I didn't coach Mari in talking about that in the interview. She naturally talked about it because it's just so important. But
Yeah.
something else that she talked about that I want to remind our listeners about, then you could go back and listen to her talk about it in more depth. But she was talking about how, as a recruiter, she takes notes, and there's a database where they have that information stored. So then if you're applying to that company in the future, they have records of those interactions. And we talked about this whole idea of being respectful, because some people just aren't respectful to recruiters, especially if they didn't get considered for that opportunity, but then they apply to that company in the future. Well, you burnt those bridges. So go back, listen to that episode, hear from a recruiter's perspective what that is like.
Absolutely. It was really great to hear it from someone that does it, because we always make these like things that we're saying, like, oh, make sure you do this. And then to have that kind of reinforced by someone that's actually in the field and doing it.
Now, Mari, what did you think of that episode?
I really loved that particular part of the of her segment, because it really did highlight how important we always tell the individuals that we work with about the importance of always being positive. Um, Instead, like, it's one of those things where, whether it's a recruiter, whether it's when they're talking to you about during the job interview about an experience with a previous employer or a previous customer, whatever the case might be, you might be asked about your previous experience, but you always keep it positive, and you talk about learning from an experience if you are asked about a negative experience. But always keep it, you always stay polite, courteous. And I loved how Amanda had mentioned that they do keep notes, even from the recruiter, not even the interviewing stage, but the recruiter stage, they still keep notes, because it's just like with everybody else. You want to work with, you think about, it's not just about the hard skills, it's the soft skills that make a difference in your day-to-day life. Is this individual going to be easy to work with? Because if you have somebody that is going to be difficult just in the recruiting stage, how are they going to be working day to day? So I loved that comment. I loved it. And I think it's so important. And I highly recommend that our listeners please listen to that particular episode, because everything that we have spoken about ourselves was just reinforced.
Absolutely. All right, my next episode that I picked was episode number 25, which was careers in horticulture. So you may have noticed every so often in our feed, we have these episodes on particular careers. And we do that when it's summer or winter breaks between semesters. And we do interview our faculty here at College of DuPage, but not just about our specific programs here at the school. It's also about the career in general. And so for this episode, I interviewed Professor Brian Clement, who talked about horticulture as a career. And I didn't realize, like, I knew that they did a lot, that there's a lot in horticulture, but I had no idea how much and the need for people. So if you're one of those that you've watched Office Space, or you've done something where you're like, oh, I want to be outside. I want to do something, not sit at a desk. look at horticulture, listen to that episode and hear about all the different options, everything from farming, sustainable urban agriculture, to landscaping. You have engineering skills, you can use that with horticulture. You are more growing skills, you can do that. Creative skills in there. There's flower. Making your own flower arrangements. And the thing that he says multiple times in that episode that is really great about careers in horticulture is it's a field where you can work for someone else, but you can also make your own thing. So, you can have your own farm or create your own business, have your own, beekeeping or whatever it is that you're doing. And it just lets people have a lot of flexibility. If you just want to work part-time, that's easy to do. If you want to work full-time, anyways, fascinating interview. I had no idea all that was involved in it.
Yeah, it was a great interview, and I'm just gonna open it back up to what you said at the beginning. Those are part of series that we do, and each of those episodes provide really good insight, right? It is a
Mm,
COD faculty, but they're not talking about their program. They're talking about the field. So if you're just looking to explore different career paths, go look at some of those different career in episodes that we're doing, because they do provide some really good insight to different paths that are out there.
absolutely. Or share it with someone
Yeah.
that you think might be interested.
So another episode that I want to point out is our salary negotiation episode. We talk a lot about salary negotiation in that episode. It was a long episode. We covered a lot of content, but what I want to point out about it is like right after we released that episode, I had someone on campus reach out to me and say, "Hey, I have a student going in for an interview. They want to negotiate their salary. Can you meet with them, or do you have anything for them?" The timing wise, it just wasn't gonna fit to where I could have a meeting, an appointment with them before they get to that interview. So I sent the salary negotiation episode, and the response was, "This is great. Was exactly what I needed in preparation for that conversation." So if you want to negotiate a salary, and I strongly recommend it. There's the proof out there when you negotiate your first salary, it leads to bigger earnings throughout the course of your career. So don't think, oh, I'm just doing, this basic entry level opportunity. They're not going to negotiate with me. There's always those possibilities. Listen to the episode and learn what makes sense for your situation and how you could be approaching it. And I guess I'll throw one other note here. The title is a little misleading, right? It's salary negotiation, but it's really benefits negotiations, talking about so many other components. Salary is just that main thing that comes to mind. But we do address how there are a lot more things that you could be negotiating than just salary.
Absolutely. And I think what's important is, when you start to look at the idea of negotiation, there is a decent amount to it. It's really important that you do it well. If you kind of misstep sometimes a little too much, then that can mess with it. And so I think it's really helpful to just get some good, solid guidance on how to approach it in the correct way, and when to do it and how to talk about it can really make a difference. All right, so the my third episode that I picked is episode 43, which is a more recent episode. And it's one of yours, Pierre. I decided, mine, whatever. I need to put a Pierre episode in here. And it's is experiences are more than employment. So it's something that I think is important. It was part of our resume series. So we have a whole series on, tips for writing your resume. But this one is specifically talking about how to include experiences on your resume that aren't traditional jobs. We often think those are, if I wasn't working somewhere and getting a paycheck, then it's not something that I can put on my resume. And that is definitely not the truth. There's a lot of things you can put on your resume, and Pierre does a great job of going through examples of what you can put on your resume and tips for how to do it. And I think this is a great episode for students who maybe don't have a lot of job experience that they can put on their resume, so they're looking for more, or those coming back to the workforce after a break. And you're thinking, hey, I've got work experience, but it's from years ago. What else can I put on my resume? Yeah, that was a good one.
Well, thank you for that. No,
I
it
was
was
your
a fun,
co-host, so I also
yeah.
help.
It is a fun episode to do. I always enjoy having that conversation with job seekers and really doing that reflection of what else do I have? What else can I be sharing with employers? So it's fun to turn into an episode.
Absolutely.
So for my last one, I want to share, I'm kind of going to do a twofer here. We did a very early episode, internship search with Christina Lasorsa.
Yes.
And that was a great episode talking about going through that internship search process. Go back, check it out. But the one I really want to emphasize was episode 31, how to have a successful internship with student Kimberly. So I got to interview a student that went through that internship process. So that episode with Christina was more about the search, and then Kimberly got to tell us about her search process, how she made that happen as a freshman or in her freshman summer doing that internship, but then also hearing the impact of the internship and what that has done for her to move forward professionally. So if you're looking for these opportunities, and if you're thinking, oh, I have to wait until my junior summer, my senior summer, don't worry about that. Forget about it. Kimberly did this after her first semester or during her first semester at College DuPage. She started getting connected with College DuPage's Career Services Center and our resources. And she found an internship after her first year, after 2 semesters of being a college student. She found a great internship that had great impact on her moving forward professionally. So I do recommend people go back and listen to that episode.
Yeah, and I like because she talks, like you mentioned, not just about finding the internship, but what it was like to do the internship and kind of how she turned it into more opportunities, which I think is something that we don't always talk about in career services, the actual like on the job stuff. And she did a good job talking about that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are just a few episodes. We've have 50 plus episodes out there. But those are just 6 quick highlights that we wanted to share with you, encourage you to go back and listen to. If you've missed them, or again, if you did listen to them already, remember they're there, and those are great resources at your fingertip available in your podcast feed.
Absolutely.
So thank you to all our listeners for joining us today. Before we wrap up, I want to note, while Michelle was not on this episode, she is still with the team and will be back in a future episode. And as a final note, we did not have a listener question today, but you can ask your questions and maybe hear it answered in a future episode. You just have to submit it to careerpodcast@cod.edu. As we end here, we encourage you to join us for our next episode when we take a look at the current job market.